We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Have fun. Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you.
Would you like to work closer to home, save money on gas, and be rewarded for your hard work and attendance? Then Bellisio Foods is looking for you. That's right, Bellisio Foods is now hiring for multiple positions and shifts with great employee benefits, an on-site health clinic, competitive wages, and advancement opportunities. Bellisio Foods is a company that truly values their employees. Apply online at belisiofoods.com/careers.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Main Street TV. I'm James. Jennifer is still on vacation, so you're stuck with me for a few more days, but we're going to do our best to get through it. I'm joined here today by a very special guest. This is Kurtis Strickland. He is the president of the Oak Hill Chamber of Commerce. Kurtis, thanks for coming in here and hanging with us this morning.
Yeah, glad to be here, James. Glad to be back. Was here last year talking about the chamber some, but here to talk about the sesquicentennial. So
Okay, so before we get any further, let's get the correct pronunciation of this out. Sesquicentennial.
there you go. Yeah.
Dylan, let's hear you say it.
Sesquicentennial.
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 There we go.
There you go. Yeah.
All right.
I've gotten better the more I say it. I think you can say it better the faster you say it.
So
sesquicentennial.
yeah. So when you guys first kind of announced this a few weeks ago, Pete Wilson was in here reporting on it from the chamber meeting or whatever it was, city council meeting, whatever you talked about it the first time, and that just rolled off his tongue like nothing. I was like, how did he do that? Like, I've heard Pete stumble over all kinds of like simpler words before. I mean, he's a very good speaker, but I've heard him mispronounce some things in a humorous way before. But he just nailed sesquicentennial, and we called him out on it. And he's like, I've been practicing.
Yeah. Yeah. I was giving John Hensler, one of the Jackson County commissioners, kind of a hard time because they read a proclamation last week, and he just replaced it with 150th anniversary.
Yeah.
So I was kind of razzing him after the meeting.
Yeah. But so this year, 2023, is the 150th anniversary of the Village of Oak Hill.
Yeah, absolutely. Hard to believe, on January the 12th, 1873, for all you history buffs.
1873.
Oak Hill, the Village of Oak Hill was created. They basically took part of Jefferson Township and part of Madison Township. If you know anything about Oak Hill, Jefferson Township's on the west side of the tracks. Madison Township's on the east side of the tracks. So they took part of both those townships and bam, created Village of Oak Hill.
Hence Madison Jefferson Fire Department.
There you go.
Yep. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about so you guys have events basically every month throughout the year of this year, 2023, commemorating that sesquicentennial for Oak Hill. But before we get into that, I want to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself to people that are listening that maybe don't know who you are. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be involved with the Oak Hill Chamber of Commerce. And
okay, yeah. So I'm Kurtis Strickland. That's Kurtis with a K, but I'm born and raised in Oak Hill, out on the west side of town. Everybody's probably familiar with the Strickland name, from Strickland Sales and Service and some other. We're all related.
There's a few Stricklands in Oak
all
Hill.
the Stricklands are related. I got involved with the chamber back in probably the early 2000s, and eventually got wrangled into being the president of the Chamber of Commerce, for which I've been the president since 2006. So I've been involved with the Oak Hill Area Chamber of Commerce
So
since
a few
then.
years.
A few years.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a great organization, a lot of volunteers. We always say, hey, none of the chamber officers for the chamber are paid. It's all volunteers. So But we enjoy it, and we try to do a lot of good stuff for Oak Hill. So yeah, that's how I got involved with the chamber. Born and raised in Oak Hill, and on the side, I do water and sewer planning. That's the job that I actually get paid for. So I work from home. Been doing that for 23 years.
So you've been the president since 2006. And that's a good year. That's the year I graduated high school. So for me, that kind of feels like also it was just yesterday, but also an eternity. So what would you say has changed in that time? Like because places like Oak Hill, they kind of seem like it's a place where time kind of stands still. Like, not a lot kind of changes in the small towns, but what would you say has changed since 2006?
I would say, especially over the last 10 years, I think we're seeing a lot of new faces around Oak Hill. I know, a lot of people talk about it, but I think Oak Hill has become kind of a bedroom community. When you go over to the grocery store, you don't recognize as many faces as you used to. So, I think that's a good thing. We've got a lot of folks moving in from the outside. So I think that's the biggest change is just new faces.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm not around. I'm not in the village as much as I used to be, so I don't necessarily see those things all the time. I remember when I was in college, I did a study abroad trip and went to Wales for a semester. It was only 3 months. It's not that long, but when I came back after having not been in Oak Hill for 3 months, the only thing that I noticed that had changed was one of the houses down the street from my parents had gotten a mailbox that looked like a fish. and
I'm very familiar with that fish mailbox. I drive past it like every day.
And so that had just appeared while I was gone, and that was the only change that I could notice. But so you've been the president since 2006, and of course we have this big 150th anniversary this year. But what are some of the other things that the Oak Hill Chamber has been involved in the past that people maybe have seen and didn't realize what it was?
So yeah, the chamber, obviously our main goal is to support all the existing businesses that are in the Oak Hill area. So we help market those businesses. We maintain a chamber membership brochure, which we update every so often. Has a nice map in it because, as you all know, we have a large Amish community south of Jackson, west of Oak Hill.
Yeah.
So we try to bring that Amish community into the chamber as well by in the first weekend of June of every year, we host an Amish business showcase where they bring a lot of their items over to the park in town.
And my dad cooks hot dogs.
And yep, James's dad is our main hot dog cooker.
Yep.
So that's a great event. But so the chamber, we help try to advertise and all of our existing businesses. And then we also, something we just got done doing, we're in charge of all the Christmas decorations that go up throughout town. We have 52 decorations that go up throughout town, which, compared to probably Jackson, that's probably a small amount. But being someone who helps put those up and take those down each year,
it's not a small job.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
But it's very appreciated. All those were donated by local citizens, businesses. Purchase those, and so the chamber maintains those decorations in addition to help we get from the Oak Hill Historical Society. So that's something we do is we put those up, take them down every year, we maintain them. Big job, but it makes Oak Hill shine during the holidays.
Yeah, it really look great. And they've got the trees in the Central Park now too, so that just adds to the the street lights decorations that they've had had for years. Well, they did get new ones just a few years ago, right?
Yeah. We did a big fundraising drive, and that's where I said individual sponsored decorations, and we've purchased those 52 decorations. They're all new. I think this is about the third or fourth year.
Yeah.
Time flies, but
Yeah, it sure does.
and that includes two wreaths that go across the street by the Liberty Theater, which really brings back memories of the old days in Oak Hill when those used to line the streets even on 93. So
Yeah.
people really like those there being up by the Liberty Theater. So, yeah, we do the Christmas lights, and then we do a big event in October, the annual Pumpkin Walk. I think we're on like our 12th or 13th year of
Yeah.
that. It's hard to believe, but something, the Pumpkin Walk was actually, I have to give kudos to my wife. She came up with that idea. She actually read it in the Buckeye Rural magazine. That's our local electric cooperative, and she read about another event that was similar to that somewhere else, and she said, "Hey, you guys ought to do that in Oak Hill." So we started that many years ago, and it's a great event we do in October where we give out about 100 pumpkins to start with, and kids and adults carve them and bring them over to the Central Memorial Park. We line the park with them, light them up, and then do sort of a cool little walk at dark.
Yeah, it's a really cool event. I wish we had the picture. We had here on this show. We had one pumpkin this past year that was particularly close to our heart. Rihanna Puckett, who works at Zip Printing, she does the T-shirt screen printing. Her jack-o'-lanterns one was reading the Telegram and one was watching Main Street TV on her iPad. So that was a personal favorite of us here at Main Street TV.
That Total Media pumpkin was it was really the creativity we see every year is just it's awesome.
Yeah,
and some of the people carving them, decorating them.
Was there one that
them.
looked like a hamburger last year?
That was like the first or second year.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the best ever. It won that year. It was a giant pumpkin that was carved in the middle, and then they actually went to McDonald's and bought hamburgers and took the patties out and put it all around the inside. Lettuce, tomato. It was cool. Yeah, I think there's pictures on our Facebook page of that one still.
That's next level. Then another big project that you guys had a big hand in over the last few years was replacing the Welcome to Oak Hill signs on the outskirts of the village.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a very important project. We needed some welcome signs coming into town on State Route 93 and then on the other state routes of 279 east and west and state route 233 as well. So the chamber kind of put together a committee that we eventually raised all the funds, and we have five really great signs. The two on 93 are a little more elaborate with brick sides, and then the ones on the other state routes, but really make coming in Oak Hill look great now with those new signs. So that was a great project and a very good example of what happens in Oak Hill when we go out and do some fundraising for something. We always end up with more money than we need. So
yeah, I think those became a little bit of the envy of people living in other communities in the area. They drive past and see them. Oh, why don't we have one of those? We need a nice sign like that.
So I just pulled this up because I thought it was cool.
Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
I'm
There's
impressed
the
that you
Total
found
Media.
that so fast, Dylan. That's very good. I do not remember those two Pumpkinhead guys being in here, so I don't know where that actually came from. But I think that is just absolutely hilarious and adorable. Very good. But yeah, so those signs are really cool, and so I think maybe you get credit for coming up with this. The new tagline or catchphrase for the village, "A great place to live."
Yeah, no, that was created, I think, back when the chamber was created in the 50s.
Really? Okay.
So that's kind of always been our tagline, our motto. Oak Hill, a great place to live.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you can answer this now, or you can wait until the end of the show. But I want you to think about, to you, what actually makes it a great place to live. So you can think about that for a minute. We can come back to it, unless you've got a good answer right on the tip of your head. But I want to.
It's easy. I can come up with it now.
Okay.
I mean, as we said, Oak Hill is obviously a very safe community. We've got great schools. New school buildings that were built in the early 2000s. We've got a lot of great businesses that have been there for years and years. If you drive through Oak Hill, you don't see, even during the downturns in the economy, we've always somehow maintained most of our local businesses and our manufacturers. We still have our two or three clay factories that bag clay and send it to all over the world. That's a story I always like to tell. Is from time to time, one of the clay factories there in town will come to me and have me certify that the clay that they're bagging up to sell all over the world comes from Oak Hill. And they actually, sell to Saudi Arabia and some other places in the Middle East. So it's pretty interesting that clay from Oak Hill gets sent all the way to the Middle East. So good businesses, good schools, good place to live, good parks. We've got Etna Park there off of 93, Central Memorial Park over by the Presbyterian Church. All of our local churches, Oak Hill Historical Society, Oak Hill Festival of Flags, the Village of Oak Hill has done a great job maintaining their utilities and being a great place to live as well. So lots of reasons Oak Hill is a great place to live, but that's a quick rundown.
All right, very good. And so you mentioned Etna Park there by the Memorial Building. So it's just recently got new playground equipment, right? This was a little bit of a long story because they got new playground equipment and then a tree immediately fell on it, and so they had to replace it. But that's all been, I mean, not that anybody wants to go out on the playground today, but that is all kind of new and cleaned up there now, right?
Yeah, I think the village got a CDBG grant to put in that new playground equipment. It looks great. So yeah,
wonderful. Well, I mean, that's great. You've convinced me that it's a great place to live. It sounds wonderful.
Well, there's a reason your mom and dad live in Oak Hill.
There's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason they've not left for 30 whatever odd years now. But so to get back to what you're actually here for, it is the 150th anniversary of the Village of Oak Hill, the Sesquicentennial, coming up this year, and you've got a whole year of events planned. So I know you've got a little bit of history there. I mean, do you want to share some of that history? Do you want to jump in to all these things we've got planned?
I can briefly, go over just a little bit of history for any of you history buffs out there. You're probably familiar with it, but Oak Hill,
and I will throw this out. The Oak Hill Historical Society has a Facebook group that's a pretty cool resource for this stuff. People really do a good job of finding some old photos and old newspaper clippings and things like that, and are really eager to share that with people. So if you're interested in, the Oak Hill history, it's a really nice resource.
Yeah, absolutely. Go to Oak Hill Historical Society's Facebook page. People post, historical photos and all kind of things on there almost daily. It's a couple maybe interesting stories. Being the president of the chamber, you get a lot of interesting calls throughout the year.
Yeah.
A couple that come to mind is after one of the Florida hurricanes this past summer, I get a call from a guy way down in Florida who, after the hurricane destroyed his house or the garage, he noticed a special brick that had, I think it was one of the Davis fire bricks, and he sends me a picture of it. And, wants more information about it, where it came from, when it was constructed. So I pass those along, but that's kind of a cool story about bricks from Oak Hill. Still being discovered down in Florida. More recently, a lady contacted me from Juneau, Alaska.
Wow.
And she wanted information about her father. They actually lived in Centerville, Ohio, back in the 50s, 60s. And she wanted more information about her father, who worked at one of the local brick factories, and was just seeking some genealogical information about when he worked there. So kind of cool to get a call from Juneau, Alaska, from someone who used to live in the area.
Yeah. So. Don't get many calls from Alaska.
They do
when it come up on my cell phone, Juneau, Alaska, you automatically think.
Yeah. Surprised you answered it.
They do have a lot of interesting stuff on there. I just found this, an old grocery store. I don't know if that's still around today. But they got
it is not.
I don't think that building, but it is a lot of those. I mean, a lot of the buildings in Oak Hill are old buildings, and it is really interesting to see what they look like in the the teens or the 20s or 50s or whenever their heyday was, and see how little or how much they have changed.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that I can talk about that briefly. One of the events we're going to have on our schedule, we'll talk about all of them later, but in September, we're going to do a historical tour of Oak Hill. So we'll get some help from the Oak Hill Historical Society members. But we're going to basically do a walk around town and talk about the sites of some of those previous grocery stores, because Oak Hill used to have several grocery stores around town. gas stations, talk about some buildings that are still standing, such as John Hensler's house there on Front Street and some others. So historical tour in September. We're excited about that, but we'll bring up some of those old grocery stores and gas stations that a lot of people from Oak Hill remember.
And of course, there are those murals in Oak Hill that sort of remind you of the way that some of those buildings used to be. A lot of people still kind of remember them as being that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's kind of run through this a little bit. So a couple of these have already happened. So January 12th was the actual anniversary, correct?
Yes.
And so there was you made the proclamation from the Oak Hill Chamber of Commerce dedicating in January 12th as anniversary day.
Yep.
And then a couple of days later, you had the Jackson County Commissioners did a proclamation at their regular meeting. But the big event that we have coming up this weekend, and this is kind of what you're really here for, January 28th, that's this Saturday, the Sour Mash String Band is going to do a free concert at the Liberty Theater in Oak Hill.
Yeah, we're really excited to have the Sour Mash String Band from Parkersburg, West Virginia. It was kind of a last-minute addition. We originally had Kenny Valentine's band from Chillicothe scheduled to play, and unfortunately, Kenny had a death in the family and had to cancel. But we rescheduled him for April the 22nd. So I know there's a lot of people looking forward to the Kenny Valentine Band concert. He's very popular. He's played here in town at the Marquee and plays, I think, every weekend in Chillicothe. And great band. So we'll have them in April. But coming up this Saturday, we were able to quickly schedule someone, and that was a Sour Mash String Band, which, if you look on their Facebook page, they call themselves a Cutting Edge Bluegrass Band from Parkersburg, West Virginia. More importantly, and I think one of the reasons we wanted to have the Sour Mash Band is one of their members is local musician Harry Coon. Harry Coon was still is, I think, a member of another local Oak Hill band, the Red Brush Band, that has been popular in Oak Hill for years and years. So Harry will be playing in Oak Hill as part of the Sour Mash Band as well. So that's it's free admission to that concert. The Oak Hill Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring that. We're paying for the concert, free admission. We'll be selling pulled pork dinners at the concert for anyone who'd like to come out for a great night of entertainment and a great meal. That'll be we're working with Kevin Crabtree. If you're from Oak Hill or Jackson County, everybody knows Crabtree cooks the best pork around. So come over and get your pulled pork dinner that night and watch the Sour Mash String Band.
And so if you're not familiar with the Sour Mash String Band and what makes them cutting edge, Dylan has a little clip of them performing. So why don't we listen to a little bit of the Sour Mash String Band right now, Dylan?
When you hear the bedside, she came to the hospital, there wasn't much left. He was running out of road, he was running out of breath, but he smiled to see her cry. Said, I'll give you my Benson to ride. St. James, in my opinion, there's nothing in this world beats a 52 Vincent and a red-headed girl. Now Nortons and Indians and Greaves won't do, 'cause they don't have the soul of a Vincent 52. He reached for her hand and he slipped her the keys. Said, I don't have any further use for these. See angels on aerials in leather and chrome, dropping down from heaven to carry me home. And he gave her one last kiss and died. And he gave her Vincent to ride.
So there you have it, the Sour Mash String Band. They're going to be at the Liberty Theater in Oak Hill this Saturday, January 28th. Free concert to celebrate the sesquicentennial 150th anniversary of the Village of Oak Hill, and dinner is available.
Yep, 8 to 11 p.m. will be the concert. So we look forward to it. Should be great. It's a great way to kick off the Oak Hill 150th anniversary of bluegrass music. You know, bluegrass music's been really a part of Oak Hill for forever. It started out, anybody from Oak Hill and around will know the name Monroe Holler Boys, a local band who played for many years. But Oak Hill has a rich bluegrass tradition. And that's a good point. James, on May the 28th, we will actually have the Bluegrass Night honoring Oak Hill at the Oak Hill Festival Flag. So that's one event that's on our schedule as well. So there'll be a Bluegrass Night, and that's our May event to celebrate the 150th.
Very cool. And I will throw out one other plug. I don't remember the exact date off the top of my head, but if you just can't get enough bluegrass, remember that Open Rail is going to be at the Marquee in March. And tickets are on sale for that now too. And those guys are, I mean, I don't know if you've seen Open Rail perform before, but they are incredible.
Awesome.
But even if you don't think you like bluegrass music, you'll probably find yourself tapping your foot along with that. So let's kind of go through this list a little bit and look at some of the other things. So after the event this weekend, the next one we have on here is February 26th, and that is a historical film and reenactment with the legendary Bob Irvin, again at the Liberty Theater.
Yeah. So on February the 16th, I think it's a Thursday night, the Oak Hill Historical Society is going to show some old historical films, sort of streetscape films that they have, very old, showing, what Oak Hill looked like back in the day. And then they'll also have, as you said, a special reenactment by Jackson County's very own Bob Irvin, who will do a special historical reenactment about some historical event that occurred in Oak Hill. So we're excited about that. It starts at 7 o'clock, and again, February the 16th at the Liberty Theater.
And so, I mean, I can't imagine anyone that doesn't know Bob, but Bob, of course, just recently published another book. He's published, I think, 5 volumes of his series of books that are the history of Jackson County. It's called Jackson County and Its People, I believe, and it's the 3rd or 4th volume in that series. And he just released that, and I believe it is available at the Lillian Jones Museum if you're interested in that. And it's just a collection of stories of people that lived in Jackson County.
Awesome. Yeah, he's definitely
and Jennifer's in it.
He's definitely the go-to guy when it comes to history for Jackson County.
Yeah, especially if you need someone to play Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Although he's probably older than Lincoln ever got at this point. So after the historical film, about a week later, on the February 25th, is the St. David's Day luncheon at the Presbyterian Church.
Yeah, that's an annual event that is sponsored by Rio Grande University, the Welsh Center there, and the Oak Hill Welsh Museum. I think it's called the Mad Dog Center for Welsh Studies. Yes. So it's something that happens every year. It hasn't happened for a couple years due to COVID, but hey, it's back, and it's back better than ever. It'll take place over at the Presbyterian Church in Oak Hill, the social room in the basement, from 12 to 1:30. It's a luncheon that day. But this year they're having a special musical performance by the University of Wales musical theater students, who are directed by really a world famous composer. So it should be an awesome event. You do have to purchase tickets ahead of time in advance, so that they can plan ahead for food. But you got to purchase your tickets by February the 10th. They have plenty of room there. So if you're interested in a nice lunch on February the 25th, St. David's Day luncheon, and some great Welsh music from students who are actually coming over across the big pond.
Yeah.
So,
and to, a little more on that, we are going to have those kids here on Main Street TV, students from Trinity University in Carmarthen, Wales, are going to be here on Main Street TV. I was trying to find it real quick. Here we go. Here's my information on it. Yeah, so it's been a 2-year hiatus since they've been able to do this because of COVID, and so we're going to have a group of 8 musical theater students from Wales that are here visiting Rio Grande on the show and at the St. David's Day dinner. The director is Elif Owen Griffins, and he is one of Wales' most dramatic choir conductors and is an established music director and award-winning composer with over 20 years of experience. And so that's pretty exciting. I'm excited to have them in here. I've mentioned on the show a lot of times that I was lucky enough to get to do a study abroad and go to the University of Wales, Trinity St. David in Carmarthen. It was a fantastic experience, and I met a lot of wonderful people here, and it's very exciting anytime we get to share our area with people from there coming here. And so that's super exciting, really wonderful. If you've never heard a Welsh choir, it's a very big part of their culture. You're talking about how bluegrass music is kind of a part of our culture. Well, choral music is a big part of their culture. I remember somebody saying to me that Welsh is the most beautiful language for opera. The only problem is nobody writes operas in Welsh. So that's a very exciting thing. I really look forward to having them on the show.
Yeah, there's no better way to celebrate Oak Hill's 150th than the Welsh history and the St. David's Day luncheon. We didn't talk about it before, but Oak Hill really started. It was really created by Welsh families who crossed the big pond. Back in 1818. That's how it all got started. Is 6 Welsh families basically floated down the Ohio River from Pittsburgh after they arrived on the East Coast. Got off their boat in Gallipolis. Liked the looks of the area because it looked like home. It looked like Wales, and walked about 30 miles inland to the area now that's around Oak Hill, and that's kind of where it all started. So they liked it. They stayed here, and that was the beginning.
It's pretty incredible. It's hard to imagine taking a voyage like that, just uprooting everything, not really knowing where you're going to go, not having any sort of travel itinerary. Just kind of like, well, let's see. We heard this place is all right. Let's just go that way.
And imagine what Oak Hill looked like in 1818.
Just all woods, I'm sure.
Yeah, they basically say Oak Hill was carved out of the backwoods. Oak Hill wasn't the first name. To throw in some more history, Oak Hill was originally called Lewisburg.
Really?
And then it was renamed after that to Portland. And it maintained that Portland name for quite a while until finally it was named Oak Hill after the stately white oaks that populated the surrounding hills. So it took a little while to get to Oak Hill.
So Lewisburg,
and then Portland. Yep.
So is that just named after one of those early settlers?
I think Portland comes from Wales.
Okay.
That name. I'm not real sure about the Lewisburg, but yeah, I would assume it comes from one of the early settlers.
Did not know that,
because there are a lot of Lewises around Oak Hill.
That's true. That's true. So then in March we have maybe the most popular event in the village of Oak Hill. We've got bingo night.
Yeah, we're still working out details on that one to figure out what we're going to do exactly, but we hope to do something there at the bingo hall regarding Oak Hill's 150th. So more details to come for that one in March, but we hope to have some kind of special night there. So
I don't know how much of a crowd it still draws, but I remember when I was a kid, that the Madison Jefferson Fire Department there, the bingo hall. On bingo night, you would not believe the cars that were parked. Just anywhere you could park a car, there was a car parked because people had to get the bingo.
And it still draws a huge crowd on bingo night, so that's why we wanted to include it. It's kind of been part of Oak Hill's history for a long time.
Oh yeah. And then on April 22nd, we talked about Kenny Valentine. He was originally scheduled to be the performance this weekend, but had a kind of a family tragedy and had to postpone. But April 22nd, Kenny's going to be at the Liberty Theater.
Yes,
Oak
he
Hill.
will. And we're so excited to have Kenny. I know he's very popular in Jackson, Chillicothe, and Columbus. If you look at his Facebook, his schedule, he performs all across the state of Ohio. So we're very happy to be able to reschedule him for April the 22nd. That'll go from 8 to 11 that night too, and it will be free admission again. And we'll probably have something to eat. So. Yeah, Kenny Valentine, come out and see him. Mark your calendars now for April 22nd.
So to piggyback off that a little bit, I think maybe this is a good time to talk about the Liberty Theater. I don't know, do you have any like history on the Liberty Theater there? Because it was, of course, renovated in recent years. It had been, kind of like a hangout meeting place for several years, but it wasn't really being used a lot anymore. But just in the last 10 years or so, it's been renovated quite a bit and turned into a really nice space that can host events like that. Whereas before, it really wasn't in good enough condition to do so.
Yeah, so the Liberty's been a part of Oak Hill's history for quite a while, from back in the days when it was, an actual theater where they showed films, just like they do, at the movie theater here in Jackson now. Similar to the Marquee, and every town of any size back in those days had their own theater. And then it eventually turned into, after the theater closed, as far as showing films, turned into Oak Hill Teen Center.
That's what I remember it as a kid.
Yeah, for years it held just events to entertain children and teens. And then it kind of closed there for a while and went into disrepair.
There it is at Halloween, I guess.
And a group was formed, the Oak Hill Historical Society. One of the spearheads of that was Brian Moore. And that Oak Hill Historical Society started, they created a 501c3 to run donations and any funds through. Nonprofit, and then they were very fortunate to receive some state capital funds through, I think it was state senator, state congressman Peterson, who helped get that money, and that was really what enabled them to do about, I want to say, $150,000 in improvements there at the theater. So they restored the outside, the inside. And it's really awesome if you haven't been to the Liberty Theater. It's really beautiful, and it's a great asset for Oak Hill.
And it's wonderful that they were able to do that. We've talked on the show a lot about the Louis Theater in Wellston, how unfortunately it's probably going to end up having to be demolished because it's just in too bad of shape to be restored anymore. And here in Jackson, we were lucky enough to have the Marquee Theater, which has been, completely renovated. And Oak Hill, thankfully, was able to do something similar with the Liberty Theater, because these old theaters they're incredible, but they're really old buildings, and it's time is hard on them, and we're lucky to be able to have saved the two that we have been able to save.
Absolutely, we kind of got the Liberty Theater just in time. They needed a roof, and we got to it just in time and saved it. So we're very thankful for that. It's a great venue if you haven't been there.
Yeah. So, I mean, you have, during the cold months, at least, you have the Chamber of Commerce meetings there. I know the Festival of Flags had their Queens contest there. Of course, you have these concerts that are scheduled there. So it's
available for rent. So anybody can rent the facility. They are pretty much booked, especially in the cold weather months, every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, birthday parties, weddings, receptions, New Year's Eve parties, you name it, graduation parties.
Yeah.
It's
I think they've had some like vendor fairs and things like that there.
Yep. So if you'd like to book it sometime, just get a hold of the Oak Hill Historical Society.
All right. So moving on down the list, now we're in May 26th or 27th. Must still be up in the air, but a Native American arrowhead presentation at the Oak Hill Public Library.
Yeah, so if you've ever been in the Oak Hill Public Library, right when you walk in the front door on the right, they have a large glass case that has a large collection of arrowheads from that were found from around the Oak Hill area. It was a local gentleman that it's his collection, but he allows it to be displayed there at the library. So the library is going to have someone in Jonathan Bowen from the Clark May Museum in Circleville.
Okay.
He's a local sort of historian who knows a lot about Native American history and Native American arrowheads and where they came from and when they were constructed and so forth. So very excited. They've had him there before, but they're going to have him back. He does an awesome presentation. He actually takes some arrowheads out of the huge case and talks about them, where they would come from, who would have been the Native American tribe who actually created those and talks about a lot of history. It's really, really cool. So
do you know what were the most common Native American tribes in the in Jackson County, or do you know any about that?
Well, I think definitely the Shawnees having Tecumseh around. They were one of the big tribes here. They were a lot earlier than that I'm not familiar with right off the top of my head. But Oak Hill definitely had a huge population, and it's a huge part of our history is the Native Americans that were here prior to those Welsh coming down the Ohio River back in the early 1800s.
So if you're interested in that, mark that date, May 26th to 27th, or, like he said, they're always on display at the library, so you can see them anytime. But Jonathan Bowden from the Clark May Museum in Circleville will be there in late May. And then also sort of piggybacking off that, the same week, you mentioned this earlier, you're going to have Bluegrass Night at the Festival Flag Stage.
Yeah, so they've got several bluegrass bands lined up for that night. I believe it's Sunday night of the festival. So should be great. Again, bluegrass is a large part of Oak Hill's history.
Yeah, and that Festival Flag Stage, it had a little bit of a renovation in recent years too, didn't it?
Yeah, so
repainted it.
So the Oak Hill Festival of Flags was created, I believe, in the early 90s.
I think.
Yeah,
93.
The year I graduated, 93, showing my age. But the Festival Flag Stage was originally over at the Central Memorial
School
Park site, which was Central School.
The original idea for the Festival of Flags was to raise money to maintain Central School, which unfortunately was a losing battle, but the festival has persevered.
Right. The festival started there. They eventually moved their stage over to Etna Park beside the municipal building, and the Central School site was actually purchased by the chamber, and that's where we have our Central Memorial Park, which that's where the name came from. So,
which is a really nice park. It's beautiful. The gazebos. There's the bigger shelter house, and then there's a really nice playground. It's a really, really nice park.
We're really proud of Central Memorial Park, and we also like to say there are no public funds from the state of Ohio, the U.S. government. Though all the funds raised for Central Memorial Park were local
donations,
and there's over $500,000 in that park, and that all came from Oak Hill. So
so in June we're going to have an Ohio historical event at the Welsh Cemetery, the Welsh Museum / the cemetery off Old Congressional Cemetery on Bingham Street. So which cemetery is that? I'm not sure I'm familiar with that.
So it's one of the oldest cemeteries on Bingham Street. If you turn off State Route 279 and on the east side and go up the hill, I believe it's the one on the right.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Welsh Museum will have a special event. We'll have more details later. We're still in the early planning stages there. Probably a special event at the museum, followed by some kind of cemetery walk up at the old Congressional Cemetery there on Bingham Street, which has some of the oldest grave sites of the oldest settlers, original settlers who established Oak Hill. So should be a very interesting night for you history buffs.
And then that same month in June, you're going to dedicate an Ohio historical marker at Moriah Church.
Yeah. So the Mad Dog Center down at Rio, they are working on getting a Ohio historical marker at Moriah Church out on Moriah Road, which again is one of the oldest churches around the Oak Hill area. One of the original ones that the Welsh started created back in the day, and we believe that'll be in June. Once they get the date nailed down, we'll let everybody know. But that'll be a very important time because Moriah Church is a big part of Oak Hill's history.
And then in July, we're going to have a special 4th of July event. Of course, Oak Hill always has a great 4th of July event. There, a lot of people kind of say like, well, Oak Hill's the place that's got the best fireworks. So like, what are you going to do other than have the best fireworks?
So the Oak Hill Boosters always put on the 4th of July event and the fireworks. We're still in the planning stages there, but we hope to have some kind of music that night, maybe by someone special from Oak Hill. So more to come.
Okay. And of course, those events are normally there at the old site of the old high school down by where the baseball field was, had the fish booth. And then a lot of times you have live music on the stage there, and then you can watch the fireworks from the baseball field or the parking lot or, wherever. So also in July, pool party at the Oak Hill Pool.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're another thing we're proud of in Oak Hill, which I should have probably mentioned when we were talking about what makes Oak Hill a great place to live, is we still have our community pool. The Margaret Ann Pool and Park was, I believe, constructed back in the 50s or 60s.
So my first assignment I ever had for local news was covering the 50th anniversary of the Margaret Ann Pool. And this would have been in like 2012-ish.
Okay.
And I remember interviewing Keith Davis about it, and he talked to me about I can never remember his name, but who started the band Pure Prairie League, doing a concert at Margaret Ann Pool. And of course, we had John Pelletier on the show yesterday, and he played with those guys back in the day too.
So that would mean, so that 1962 is about when the pool was constructed, and something Oak Hill is very proud of. The village still maintains that. They actually have a levy that generates some funds to keep the pool open, and it's really in great shape for something of its age. So the village is going to sponsor a free pool party, date to be determined, probably late July. So can't wait to do that.
Then in August, you were talking on the radio with Matt and Josh earlier, and when you read this one, old Big Papa Josh perked right up. August 19th, we're going to have an old-time corn roast.
Yeah, that's so this idea came from Brian Moore from the Oak Hill Historical Society, and it's something that everybody was like, yes, we have to do that. Back in the day, there was a lot of corn roast around the Oak Hill area. So yeah, we'll have a big boiling pot of water with sweet corn, local sweet corn, I'm sure. There at probably at Etna Park, and we're going to also have a cornhole tournament going on at the same time. So should be an awesome event there on August 19th.
So I don't know what it is about the Oak Hill sweet corn, but it is the best sweet corn, obviously. And I remember as a teenager, maybe my early 20s, I was at a friend's house whose family has a big farm, and then they grew sweet corn. And they had a dude pull up in a limousine to buy sweet corn one day. And I was like, what is happening? But yeah, so you do not want to miss that for sure. Then moving into the fall in September, we're going to have that historical tour of Oak Hill you were talking about.
Yep. So we'll probably have folks stationed around different historical sites throughout Oak Hill, and you walk around town or drive around town, stop at the sites. They kind of tell you what went on there or more information about the structure, and so yeah, should be awesome.
So there are a lot of interesting old buildings in Oak Hill that have been home to a lot of different businesses over the years, or in the case of a lot of them, they were probably home to one business for 50 years, and then it's maybe in the last 20 or 30 years has maybe been home to a lot of different things. But the buildings themselves have been there for 60, 70, 80 years. So there's a lot of history.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the historical buildings right now that's being renovated is the old Jenkins Pharmacy, which is there at the corner of 93 and Main Street. It's being turned into a sports shop.
Mm.
And if you've been following you can actually find information on the Oak Hill Historical Facebook page. Some of the things they're finding there as they restore that, the old pharmacy counter and the marble that's in there in that building. So it's really a cool building. Another building that sits right beside the Liberty Theater is the Betty Jenkins house. That's probably maybe the most historical house in town. It was the old stagecoach stop in Oak Hill at one time. And then right across the street is the old Vesta Wilson home, which is now owned by John Hensler, which has been restored beautifully. If you were able to go through that house back in Christmas. Yep. So, those will be some of the sites, I'm sure, as well as many others that maybe aren't still standing, but we can tell some historical information about.
Very cool. And then in October, of course, we already talked about the Pumpkin Walk, but you're also going to have the Oak Hill schools honor Oak Hill's history. So the schools are going to have a special presentation.
More to be determined about that one. But we hope to have some kind of event with the schools to honor Oak Hill's 150th. So to be determined, but in the planning.
TBD. All right, now this is the one I'm excited about: a special unveiling at Central Memorial Park. Are we keeping this a secret, or you got a hint for us or anything?
Well, we'll just say that we're going to have a huge sheet or some sort of
big
fabric
sheet
over top of something that we're going to pull off, and there'll be lots of oohs and ahs. It'll be something big and something cool and something that will really put Oak Hill on the map even more. So stay tuned.
All right. So here's the question: are we trying to start a rivalry with Raleigh, North Carolina?
Possibly, but the rivalry will be settled in November because we'll outdo them.
Yeah. So there's a little hint. If you're curious,
you can do your own research.
You can do your own research, or you can wait until
it's
November
going to be
4th.
big and it's going to be cool.
It's going to be huge,
and it'll put Oak Hill on the map even more than we are now.
So after this exciting unveiling that Kurtis won't tell us, we have to wait till November to find out what it is. In December, we're gonna have another concert at the Liberty Theater.
Yeah, we're currently throwing around ideas of who that might be, but we want to kind of end the year, the sesquicentennial year, with another free concert at the Liberty Theater. So more to come on who that might be, but we're really excited about it.
So this
is a year of so many great events to celebrate Oak Hill's 150th.
Yeah. So this is a ton of stuff. This is obviously has had a lot of work put into it. 150 years in the making. I don't know how you're going to top it in 50 years. I mean, I'm sure you'll still be around doing it in 50 years, but this is a lot of stuff, and this is something that could have, if nobody stood up and said, hey, this is the 150th anniversary of the town, then maybe nobody would have even known, and it would have gone by kind of unmarked, but you guys have stepped up and taken the initiative to put all this stuff on, and that's really, really, really great.
I wanted to bring it with us. We have copies of when all of the centennial celebrations were done 50 years ago for the 100th anniversary. So we've had a tradition of definitely celebrating our anniversaries every 50 years. So we want to make the 150th even bigger than the 100th. So if you go to our Facebook page, you can see this list of events.
I think Dylan's got it on here for you.
List everything by month on Oak Hill Chamber's Facebook page, and we will keep updating this as events are scheduled, and we'll probably add more events. So yes, it's going to be a great year, 2023 in Oak Hill.
So earlier, well, I guess it was last year now, but we celebrated an anniversary here at Total Media. It was Pete Wilson's 50th anniversary of being in the news business. So when we started talking about this, I was like, well, so Pete, what was it like 50 years ago at the 100th anniversary? He's like, well, I kind of remember it, but not really. Like, I kind of remember hearing that it was happening, but didn't really remember. He was maybe a year before he started writing for the paper. So it's been a few years ago.
Yes, Pete's certainly been a part of Oak Hill. I know he used to do Oak Hill football games back in the day. So
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Kurtis, thank you so much for coming in. This was great chatting with you and getting to go over all of this stuff. This is really neat. Lots of things to look forward to. Is there anything else that you'd like to say about the Oak Hill Chamber or about these 150th anniversary events before we let you get out of here for the day?
No, just this Saturday, January 28th, 8 o'clock.
Sour Mash
String Band, awesome bluegrass band. Come out and see us. Bring your families, have a dinner.
Yep, come out for dinner.
See the Liberty Theater. So
yep,
we'll see you Saturday.
Do you know the cost for the dinners?
We don't yet. Probably,
Okay.
Between $5 and $10, I'm sure. Yep.
Very good.
Yep.
Well, that's super exciting. Kurtis, thank you so much for coming in and talking about that. You're welcome back on the show anytime that you have something you want to promote for the Chamber of Commerce. Hopefully we'll have you back in here to talk about some of these other events. Maybe we can get Kenny Valentine back on the show to talk in March or in April to talk about, his concert and everything. So
yeah,
very
certainly.
exciting.
Yeah, we'd love to come back maybe in May to once we've got the rest of the year's schedule more nailed down and more details.
Wonderful. Thank
Yep.
you. Well, and I'd like to remind our viewers that today on Mix 96 FM from 1:30 to 2:30, we're going to have live coverage of the Cincinnati Reds Caravan, which is stopping in Jackson today. This is not a public event. It's a private event, unfortunately. If you are interested in coming, maybe give the radio station a call and see if there's any space left. But we will be doing a live broadcast of the Q&A from 1:30 to 2:30 on Mix 96 FM. JJ is very excited to be able to claim that he worked with Marty Brenneman after this. Well, Kurtis, thank you so much for coming in today. We'll let you get on out of here. And Dylan, if I'll let you come over and we can finish the show a little bit. But Kurtis, thank you so much for coming in today. And so remember, Saturday, January 28th, Sour Mash String Band concert at the Liberty Theater from 8 to 11 p.m. Free admission in Oak Hill. Celebrate the sesquicentennial. Sesquicentennial. Very good. All right.
Finally.
Thank you, sir. Dylan, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm very good today.
Yeah. So for those that listen on a regular basis, you know that we tease Dylan about how much he likes Rick and Morty all the time.
Yeah, I do like Rick and
And
Morty.
of course, there's big news about Rick and Morty today.
There is.
Show co-creator and the voice of Rick and or Morty.
I think it's Rick.
It's both of them.
Oh.
He does the voice for both of them.
Oh,
Has
I did not know that.
You didn't?
I didn't
You didn't know who did the voice?
I knew he did Rick. I didn't know he did Morty.
So he has been fired from the show because he can't behave.
Yep, that is true.
So Dylan is practicing to audition for the roles of Rick and Morty.
Nope, I think I'll just sit on the couch and watch it whenever they get a new voice.
Okay. So you're just you're okay with them having a new voice for your favorite characters?
I mean, I think a lot of fans do it very well, just jokingly. So I don't think it'll be a concern.
Now, I was telling you, I saw a commercial or something with the Muppets in it the other day, and it had whoever's doing the voice for Kermit the Frog now. That is not Kermit the Frog. I don't know what that is, but that is not Kermit the Frog's voice.
I haven't seen the updates. The last update I heard about the Muppets was the adult TV show on CW. Adult Swim, whatever.
It was on ABC, which that show is actually really funny. And I think it's the same guy playing Kermit that played Kermit in that show, but I don't know. He's gotten worse or something. I don't know. So you don't want to give us you don't want to try out?
Nope. But I do want to give a shout out to our Minecraft team.
Okay.
We
Oh
won.
yeah, you told me about this.
We did win. We live streamed all of it on Jackson High School Esports, and we'll be live streaming the Smash Bros. Scrimmage today.
Okay, so you won a league tournament for esports, right?
Yep, the whole league, we won it.
Very
At least
good.
for our time zone.
Congratulations.
There is a possibility they might have us like one person in a different time zone. We'll play at like 6 and we'll play at like 4 and we'll see
Okay.
who's the overall winner.
All right.
But we won our time zone.
Very cool. Congratulations, Dylan. That's really exciting.
It is awesome.
All right. Well, that is it for today. We're running out of time. I'll let Dylan run back around to the keyboard to turn us off here in a second. But thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We will be back tomorrow. Big Papa Josh Willett is going to be on the show with me tomorrow, and maybe a surprise guest, too. But we're going to be talking movies. We're probably going to be talking Oscar nominations. So if you're interested in hearing the thoughts on the Oscar nominations from a couple people that haven't seen very many of the movies that got nominated for Oscars, be sure to tune in tomorrow. So until then, I'll see you guys later. Remember Red's Caravan today on Mix 96 FM at 1:30 to 2:30. So tune in and listen to that. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Bye, guys.
This just in.
The Telegram News has a new website.
TheTelegramNews.com.
Same dedicated coverage.
Same trustworthy news with a brand new look.
Covering Jackson and Benton counties and surrounding areas.
Locally owned and operated, TheTelegramNews.com has its finger on the pulse of the community.
Stay up to date on local events, high school sports, and breaking news.
TheTelegramNews.com.
Subscribe today at TheTelegramNews.com.
Check it out.